So the reality is that the adoption industry is going to be a shit show for the next 4 years. Because we know history repeats itself, and we're seeing that today. Now, because there is less stigma with unwed mothers and single parenting, I predict that there's going to be even more of an emphasis on the traditional family structure of a man and woman being married and having their 2.5 kids or whatever. Because the adoption industry is reliant on this shame to keep up with the supply of children for couples hoping to adopt. And we've been in a baby bust for years now. There aren't enough infants per couple looking to adopt, and there can be anywhere from 5 to 35 couples hoping to adopt the one available. It's the demand of babies that is at the crux of this anti-abortion, pro-adoption education by supporters of Trump that tend to be white Christians. There are already laws that require pro-adoption education in schools. And it's easy to see that that probably is going to be a trend as long as he keeps going with his followers' anti-abortion stance. Because regardless of the fact that 99% of pregnant people who carry their child to term want to parent and can parent successfully if they simply have the resources, the public perception is going to push that there are unwanted babies and that there are more unfit mothers than there actually are. They can keep pushing adoption. They need this business to thrive. Right now, they have been teetering on this cusp where they get to reap the benefits of raising prices of private infant adoption in the United States, sometimes to $70,000+ for adoption of one child. And the adopted parents are now catching on. And the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, has already addressed adoption consultants and intermediaries about the unregulated and sketchy practices behind the scenes, promising people a baby, essentially, when there are no guarantees. They're going to try to improve the image of adoption and use more happy adoptees as props, and so on and so forth. Just like it did in the 90s when I was growing up, there's going to be an increase in the positive adoption stories that are covered in the media and social media. People freaking love a happily ever after story. And we're seeing that with the adoption influencers that are already out there. And when we tie in the possible restrictions to IVF, there are going to be even more families that are struggling to expand by having a baby, and a lot of them are going to turn to adoption. And when you have hundreds and thousands of people sharing their infertility journeys to happily ever after adoption story where they get the baby of their dreams, this reinforces the public's perception of adoption into this very simplified view. And people forget what happens after the happily ever after because they are so enamored by this picture painted by social media and adoption influencers and movies and TV. Which is why I urge all prospective parents and current adoptive parents to do your research. Understand that there are ethical issues, particularly with the private infant adoption, multi-billion-dollar business in the United States. You can check out my books in the library for free. Chapter 9 is full of a whole bunch of resources by other adoptees, birth parents, and make sure that you sign up to my Substack and click all of these to stay updated on the latest adoption news, as well as updates on my next book that is digging into the social media gold mine that is adoption influencers, that rewards these families for promoting this happily ever after narrative and exploitation of adopted children for content that hides the realities that many of these families are facing and the trauma that adoptees are going through, as well as oftentimes the coercive aspects of adoption that have happened in a lot of these situations.